Catholic Cathedral.
We'll leave New Zealand's coverage there. You're watching 7's live coverage of the New Zealand earthquake disaster.
Stand by now for a special 1-hour edition of 7 News. Tonight, dozens dead and widespread destruction after a powerful earthquake hits Christchurch.
The desperate rescue effort to save hundreds trapped in the rubble.
Terror on the streets as aftershocks rattle the city.
This is 7 News with Rod Young and Kay McGrath.
Good evening. The New Zealand city of Christchurch has been reduced to ruins by an earthquake, with dozens killed and unknown numbers of people still trapped in the rubble. The quake struck at lunchtime, with the epicentre 20 kilometres from the centre of Christchurch. It measured 6.3 on the Richter scale. 65 people have been confirmed dead so far.
The moment the earthquake struck,
the floor's trembling and the rocks are falling down in Sumner, just outside Christchurch.
and this was where it had its most devastating effect. Christchurch was disintegrating.
The building fell down on top of us. We're not bearing gifts there, it's trashed.
City buildings fell apart right in the middle of a working day and a school day. The quake filled the streets with rubble, with dust and with panic.
I was just walking along Colombo Street and I was about 6 or 8 paces away from the balcony that fell on top of everybody.
Leaving a city dazed and confused, terrified.
Oh, it's just a huge shaking. It's just unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
The most frightening thing of my entire life.
A shocked New Zealand couldn't believe the destruction.
We're just in Colombo Street near the Cathedral Square, and you can see cars have been absolutely covered.
In no time, survivors became rescuers. Their challenge was everywhere, overwhelming.
You guys all right? What do you need a hand? What do you need?
I hit with the table, the table in the restaurant. And 2-3 people just fallen on me. So.
Suddenly, an aftershock strikes the city's landmark cathedral, causing more panic for those thinking they were safe out in the open.
This building comes down, you got no chance. Can you all go back there, please?
Frightening for those still inside.
And there is someone trapped up in the glass there. They're just sitting out of the window. Hopefully they're okay.
And I'm sure there's some people under there. And we've got some folk up there that we want to try and get out, but of course emergency are all over the place dealing with gas leaks and God knows what else. It's just huge. It is huge.
Just how huge could be seen from the air. The cathedral with its fallen spire, one of several churches which suffered major damage. A city building virtually halved and on fire. People waited on rooftops for rescue. This 4-storey office block squashed down like a pancake. Hard to imagine someone survived, but from the mess, a woman appears. Her name's Christy.
Just look at us. You'll be fine. They're going to come and get you down.
While she waits, she says she hears others trapped inside.
Just stay away from the edge.
A delicate operation begins to lift her to safety. Luckily, she's escaped serious injury. Christy's returned to her relieved workmates. And then it all sinks in. Emergency services were so stretched, paramedics at one point ran out of ambulances. It shut down communications and forced evacuations. A traffic jam of workers fleeing the city.
I don't think we can go past the fact that we may well be witnessing New Zealand's darkest day.
A region hit by a 7.1 magnitude earthquake only last September. This quake was shallower and closer to Christchurch. It showed. Chris Marr, 7 News.
Reporter Hamish Clark from New Zealand's TV3 spent much of the day recording the damage and talking with survivors. Hamish, what's the situation there tonight?
A state of emergency has been declared in Christchurch for the next 5 days, and the death toll sits at 65 and is expected to rise tonight. There are 350 military personnel on the streets, and another 250 are on their way. 180 police are also patrolling the streets, and 200 more officers will be coming from around the country. Light armoured vehicles are also patrolling the streets, and the main thing tonight is that 2 operations are underway. One is to get those that are trapped and alive in buildings out, and the other is to get into buildings where there are trapped and people that we fear may be dead, get to them as quickly as possible. The rain has set in, there's no power in the city, residents are asked to boil their water. This is a very serious situation, and the emergency crews will be working hard all through the night to get as many people as they can out of the buildings and to safety. It's been a direct hit on the CBD. The outer suburbs have got away pretty lightly, but in the CBD we had a lot of people. It happened at lunchtime. There were people in buildings and there were people having lunch as well, so that's why the death toll is at 65 and expected to rise.
TV3 reporter Hamish Clark there. Well, a quake struck at lunchtime in Christchurch when many office workers were on the street during their lunch break. They were soon confronted with the horror of people trapped under rubble screaming for help.
In the middle of the day in the centre of Christchurch, a disaster zone.
There simply are no more ambulances in the city because there are so many injured people.
Hundreds of people were inside the Pine Gould building when the quake struck.
It's my building. That's our work. That's your workplace. Were you in there at the time? No. You would never have got out.
Have you seen people come out of there?
No.
Initially, there were fears up to 200 people were trapped. Slowly, they came out on stretchers, on shoulders and on cranes.
Yeah, and there were some who weren't in the building beforehand.
How many do you think are still to come out?
There's a lot of people here.
City workers joined rescuers in the desperate search.
Some have been coming out, but there are countless trapped, and it's just a horrific scene.
Chaos, terror and panic.
It's up here! It's up here! It's here!
Screams of those still trapped could be heard from across the road. Injury and pain.
I've just been over to the Pine Gould Corporation building that has collapsed, and it is just devastating to see mothers, fathers, brothers, girlfriends, wives, husbands turning up looking for their family members in that building. Just absolutely traumatic.
Families gathered at the park across the road helping and hoping for loved ones.
Managed to find 3 ladies that were on the 2nd or 3rd floor and managed to pull them out around the 2nd, but one guy's trapped up to his waist and stuff in concrete, and it's just horrendous.
A few blocks away, this worker was lowered to safety while a crane was called in for others trapped on the top floor.
It's not so much that the building has collapsed, because you can see that it hasn't, but the stairwell has. So They have no other means of escaping the building.
One by one on live television.
This is the Forsyth Bar building, the 17th story, and 24 people are now being rescued.
A rare display of hope on a day of destruction and despair. Lee Jelisak, 7 News.
Christchurch was already a city on edge following the previous devastating earthquake in September. There have been many aftershocks over the past 6 months, but the magnitude of today's quake took everyone by surprise.
The collapsed buildings tell the story of what happened, but only the survivors can tell us how.
It's my building. That's our work. That's your workplace.
How many of you got out at the time?
5 of us.
And do you know how many of your colleagues are still in there?
I think there's about 10 people still from my work in there.
There's a guy on the second floor that was like covered to his waist and concrete and stuff, and oh God, I've just never seen anything like it in my life, and I don't even want to again, to be fair.
I was just walking along Colombo Street and I was about 6 or 8 paces away from the balcony that fell on top of everybody.
We were in Caledonian Road and man, it really shook there.
The things are holding food all just smashed down glass around us. The windows blew out, they were all glass, rushed out onto the street, and there was just clouds of dust.
There's backpackers here, there's people taking photos on their cell phones. No one's really too sure what to do.
So I was on the second floor of the BNZ building. To actually see the top of the cathedral come down I've never seen anything like it in my life. To actually see it topple in front of the cathedral, to see the dust and have people running out underneath that dust there's just no words, to be quite honest. It was absolutely awful.
Amid the wreckage, near misses and unlikely tales of survival in everyday places.
In the barber shop in Cathedral Square.
What happened?
The building fell down on top of us.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
In the priest building.
What was it like?
Awful. Horrific.
Everybody okay there?
We don't know.
If I felt the whole thing just shake like crazy, and I knew this was it.
Some didn't need many words to tell their story.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're all right.
Out of breath, but breathing nonetheless. Mike Duffy, 7 News.
It's hard to imagine the horror that residents of Christchurch went through when the quake struck. Some of the pictures are too confronting for us to show you, but here are some other unedited accounts of the immediate aftermath.
I'm not really okay because I don't know what's happening over in Heathcote, where my children are, and I can't get to Heathcote. So it's really scary because I heard the earthquake was centred around Littleton, so Heathcote's on the back of that. And yeah, we can't get there. We tried to go that way, the roads are all blocked, it's crazy.
I heard rumours, I don't know how true it is or not, but they said that there was rubble and they saw limbs.
The city has run out of ambulances, and this is why you're seeing a 4-wheel drive pull up to take the injured away. There simply are no more ambulances in the city because there are so many injured people.
Please be careful. Please be careful.
Police say there are reports of multiple fatalities at several different locations around Christchurch. The city has been evacuated. These pictures were shot just a short time ago from the Pine Gould Guinness building, and we like to point out that they are unedited. So we do apologise if they are of a graphic nature. We simply don't have the time to edit them. We're bringing them to you as quickly as we can so you can get some idea of the devastation that has hit Christchurch. Just terrible, terrible scenes. We've seen one woman just a short time ago, Christy Clements, be rescued from the top of the collapsed Pine Gould Guinness building. You can see the fire engine that rescued her in the background, putting up its ladder and carrying her off. She was clearly in shock, and you know, wouldn't you be? Look at that building.
Look at this, and I'm sure there's some people under there. And we've got some folk up there that we want to try and get out, but of course emergency are all over the place dealing with gas leaks and God knows what else. It's just huge. It is huge. And, you know, the buildings are buildings. The really important thing are the people, and we just don't know if there are people under this rubble. I fear there are.
Being a resident here in Christchurch, I've felt the aftershocks just like everybody else. And, you know, we were watching the news, reading the paper, and the experts were saying, you know, you might expect a magnitude 5 earthquake every 6 weeks or so, and you start to get that, I guess, false sense of security again after that leaves. But, I mean, the difference between a 5 and a 6.3, which we had today, is absolutely immense. And the absolute shock of what you felt, you just cannot describe sitting in your lounge thinking that everything is completely okay, and then the walls completely shaking, the lights falling out of the roof.
It was worse from the September one, it really is. There's more damage, way more damage.
Well, Brisbane couple Gwendolyn and Ian Robinson were on holidays just 1 block from the cathedral when the earthquake struck. Gwendolyn joins us now live. And Gwendolyn, where exactly are you now?
We're about 30 kilometres north of Christchurch in a motel.
And are you all right?
Yes, we're fine. We're fine. We're a little shocked, but we're fine.
Can you describe to us what you saw, Gwendolyn? What happened?
Yes, we were in a cafe having lunch, and suddenly everything was sort of swaying side to side, and bottles were, you know, fridges were crashing, and food, drinks all over the place. And my husband tried to pull me under the table. I was trying to mop up the blackberry smoothie on my boots. Anyway, we got under the table, and then a minute or so later, it had all stopped. In fact, you know, those sort of things extend, the times extend. But we went outside to stand in the street, because it was on a corner, to see what had happened, and there were windows broken, awnings broken, buildings, fronts of buildings, rubble everywhere, fallen on cars. There are great cracks in the road, and this sludgy stuff, which I can't remember the name of, water and sewage were sort of oozing all through the street. And there were some people trying to remove rubble off a crushed car that there was obviously someone inside. And there were a couple of those incidences down the street. There was a smell of gas. It was very dusty, you know, dust clouds everywhere. And people just very dazed. A few people, you know, very, very upset. But at that stage, we were all just uninjured bystanders.
Well, that's good to hear, Gwendolyn. It must have been a horrific experience for you, and I'm sure you're looking forward to getting home. Thank you for joining us, Gwendolyn Robinson, a holidaymaker from Brisbane. Well, a hotline has been set up for anybody concerned about friends and relatives in the earthquake zone. The number to call is 1300 555 135.
New Zealanders live with the knowledge they're on a major geological fault line. It's where the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates crush together, with sometimes devastating results.
Christchurch recorded 125 aftershocks in the month following last September's earthquake. Geoscientists say the city will continue to rumble after today's devastating quake. It's already happening. Today's earthquake was about 25 times weaker than September's, but it was 30 kilometres closer to Christchurch and much closer to the Earth's surface.
Probably because the damage of the previous one and the aftershocks they've been having, the buildings have been compromised in some circumstances, so they would have been affected more, perhaps.
1931, the worst quake in New Zealand's history at Hawke's Bay on the North Island. 256 killed, almost 600 injured. In the past 30 years, 12 big earthquakes have hit New Zealand. In a land known for its breathtaking beauty, they live with a constant risk. The Alpine fault line runs through New Zealand's South Island. The Pacific plate is slowly sliding west under the Australian plate at up to 6 centimetres a year. The pressure between the plates builds. Earthquakes occur when that pressure is released.
No warning from the earthquake itself. I mean, the first we hear of it is what we see from the seismographs.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Australia's response to the disaster has been swift, with a search and rescue team immediately sent from Sydney. And Prime Minister Julia Gillard has promised New Zealand whatever extra assistance is needed.
Just last week, Julia Gillard told the New Zealand Parliament that Australians considered them family.
And today our family are suffering a very devastating blow.
Ms Gillard spoke to her New Zealand counterpart John Key as he emerged from an emergency cabinet meeting.
I said very simply to him that anything we've got that they need, we will get to them.
Mr Key asked for an Australian search and rescue team.
And that is literally on its way.
The 70-member team from New South Wales includes rescue, medical and engineering professionals.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of New Zealand right now.
News of the earthquake reached Foreign Minister Kevin Rudd as he was preparing to address the National Press Club.
This is just horrible, but for the people of Christchurch, this just isn't fair.
Australia's travel advice for New Zealand has been updated, warning of aftershocks. Only 350 Australians are registered with our High Commission as being in Christchurch, but the real number would be much higher, raising fears that Australians may be among the dead.
When you have so many large buildings which have collapsed like wedding cakes into rubble, and it's in the middle of a working day, we have grave fears.
As Australia again extends a helping hand across the Tasman.
We are seeing some remarkable acts of heroism, and I think we can say that today in Christchurch the Anzac spirit is on display.
Mark Riley, 7 News.
Ahead in this special 1-hour edition of 7 News, more on the Christchurch earthquake, including Anna Bly's promise of help.
Heartache for hometown hero Wallabies coach Robbie Deans.
And how stunned New Zealanders in Queensland watched the disaster unfold.
You're with 7 News. 70 members of Queensland's urban search and rescue teams will be sent to Christchurch. Touring Tully today, Ms Bly said Queensland would do all it could to help after New Zealanders were so generous when disaster struck here. Paramedics are also on standby, ready to be deployed into the earthquake zone.
We will stand shoulder to shoulder with our friends in New Zealand, just as they stood with Queensland a couple of weeks ago. We could not have got through our disasters if New Zealand hadn't helped us. They sent us teams of people, including Red Cross volunteers, paramedics and emergency staff, and we're going to help them right back again with our best and brightest people.
The Queensland Government will make a decision about donating money once an appeal is established.
Dozens of New Zealanders trying to return home to family and friends have been stranded in Brisbane. Christchurch International Airport is closed. Reporter Angie Asimus is at Brisbane International Airport.
Well, airlines have been told to cancel all flights from here until midnight. By then, they should have a better understanding of the extent of the damage at Christchurch Airport. So far, there have been 2 flights affected. One was due to arrive in Brisbane from Christchurch this afternoon. The other was supposed to leave here about now, and there were 62 people booked on that flight.
I feel pretty helpless. Wife and kids are back in Christchurch. Everyone's pretty shaken up, and these aftershocks are continuing to roll in.
Airlines are working to move those passengers to other flights. Surgeon Alan Churnside is one of them. He's booked to go to Wellington, but will make his own way home to Christchurch from there.
I'm a retired surgeon, but when I heard there was so much damage and the hospital wasn't told, I thought that my assistance in some department might be of value.
And of course, the delays are also affecting people on holidays in Brisbane who now want to cut their trip short. The Fishers have been told to expect devastation when they arrive home.
We've been texting our families and stuff like that, and just getting hold of them and seeing they're all okay. Everyone's pretty shattered over there.
And there are flights scheduled to leave here for Christchurch as early as tomorrow morning, but anyone with tickets for those is urged to contact their airline to check they are running.
Angie Asimus. Well, more than 40% of overseas migrants who move to Queensland are New Zealanders. Today, across the southeast, many sat in disbelief, glued to television coverage, watching events unfold.
Watching from afar, hanging on every word, every image.
Oh my gosh, look at that one.
At Callum Vale, a group of friends sit stunned as the scale of the emergency in New Zealand grows by the minute.
Look, there's still some more people trapped in there.
Thompson Tafa has 3 younger brothers in Christchurch and hasn't heard from any of them.
It's just knowing if they're okay. That's the biggest part. As long as they're okay, but not knowing that, you know, if they are or not is harder again.
One lives behind the cathedral that collapsed. It's tough to be this far away.
Yeah, I'm a bit hurt at the moment. Down.
For us, you know, we fear for their lives and their welfare and everyone else.
Jules Hetted runs a funeral company in Brisbane now. She's an embalmer by trade. She's already had the call from New Zealand to come and help.
New Zealand Embalming Federation, they actually send out an email to a response team that if you're able to volunteer to go and help, they may need to call on your services.
The heart of Surfers Paradise came to a stop as images were shown on the giant screen in Circle on Cavill. Mick Hack from Wellington was a worried man.
My sister's son, he lives there, and his wife and 2 kids. So, you know, we're just trying to find out as much as we can.
Queenslanders have seen their share of disasters lately, but now their hearts are with the New Zealanders.
It's just a shame to see it all being destroyed. It's just incredible.
At Gold Coast Airport, flights to Christchurch were cancelled. Passengers had nowhere to go, including a pair of honeymooners. But there were more important things to worry about.
Yeah, hopefully not too many people have died or anything. It looks pretty sad in the centre of town.
Ryan Neal works in Christchurch. His girlfriend's family home was hit hard.
Everything's like torn up. Their house is written off at the moment, and they've got quite a new house, so it's all been cracked and all structurally bent.
Across the state, many New Zealanders are still waiting for word on friends and family. The shock from this quake is far-reaching. Neil Warren, 7 News.
Australian rugby union coach Robbie Deans has expressed relief his mother and sister escaped injury in today's disaster. Deans was born and bred in Christchurch and today spoke to Jim Wilson.
You've lived there most of your life. Do you feel helpless? Do you wish you were there so you could do more?
Oh, obviously, yeah. I mean, much rather be there now in order to be able to help. But all we can do is think of them now, and when we get the opportunity to be able to do something, we will.
For one of Christchurch's favourite sons, this was a day he'll never forget. A city that was rebuilding after an earthquake last September and another tremor that Deans experienced firsthand on Boxing Day.
People are aware that they're on a fault line, but you don't expect it to happen. And it's been relentless since September. That's the tough thing. And obviously now it's affected people and people's lives. It's not knowing when it's going to end is going to be a very tough pill to swallow. Yeah.
How resilient are the people of Christchurch? I mean, as you said, they've had a hellish few months.
Oh, they'll show you how resilient they are. You know, they're good people. They're a good community.
That fighting Kiwi spirit echoed by World Cup winning rugby league coach Stephen Kearney, who, like Deans, sat in disbelief as Christchurch crumbled.
We saw what happened with the Queensland floods, and it's a matter of, you know, assessing all the damage and then working from there. It's just so sad to see it happen to them, you know, twice in such a short space of time.
Jim Wilson, 7 News.
Ahead in this 1-hour edition of 7 News, the rest of today's news, including a breakthrough in Queensland's body-in-the-barrel murder investigation.
Counting the cost from last night's Brisbane storms.
And how the crisis in Libya could send petrol prices soaring.